Not nice.
Bring in Mike Florio, the popular co-host of Pro Football Talk Live. Mike, how are you this morning?
Good. Fritzy reminds me of the Michael Scott approach to a wedding toast. You just have a bunch of different things lined up until one lands.
But he doesn't get out. That's the problem. Fritzy just keeps going. Here's our poll question. If you could pick, you gotta pick one. You want to be Daniel Jones last night, Dan Orlovsky running out of the end zone, or Mark Sanchez with a fumble?
Oh, boy. Wow. Probably Orlovsky running out of the end zone, because that one has had some relative staying power, but it's not over the top eye roll groan every time you see it. It's just kind of funny and light. The butt fumble is just kind of like the ultimate groan inducer. Daniel Jones, I have no idea how long this one's going to last, but I have a feeling it's going to stick with him as long as he's in the league. So I'll go A or B or whatever it was, Orlovsky.
Yeah, but I got to give Daniel Jones credit for being athletic for 70 yards. Orlovsky and Sanchez, there's nothing athletic about what they did there. And Daniel Jones afterwards said, hey, I just tried to run faster.
How many times have we seen guys run to the end zone and they look up and they can check on the video board that no one is close enough to tackle them? He just has no awareness, which is not surprising because in the pocket he has no awareness. Maybe that's his biggest flaw because he's got the physical skills for at least 80 yards, not for the final 87.
Do you think if the Giants are on the clock for the number 1 or number 2 pick overall, that they would consider a quarterback?
I think you have to. You have to do the evaluation. You have to be objective and understand who's out there so you can make a decision about whether to renew the vows with the guy you have. And one of the big decisions is, are they going to keep their GM, Dave Gettleman? If it's a new GM, then the first order of business may be to bring in a new quarterback, a new franchise quarterback, a guy that you believe will be the next 15-year option. They thought it was going to be Daniel Jones. So far, it hasn't been. Again, ball security is a problem. Awareness in the pocket is a problem. I don't know how much of that you can coach out of a guy, but with a new coaching staff there, if they end up with a new GM, I think it becomes more urgent. But whoever you are, you need to put in the time to look at all of the top prospects and understand their strengths and their weaknesses, because even if you're trading that pick, you want to be able to get the most out of that pick, and the more you know about the guy, the better suited you're going to be to negotiate with whoever would want to come up and try to get that pick from you.
Are the Vikings tanking?
Well, I don't know. I mean, some of these teams, you ask, are they tanking? Well, you have to try to tank? I don't even know that they're doing it deliberately, but once you start selling off parts, that necessarily bumps up the depth chart a lesser guy, which makes your team easier to beat. I mean, Yannick Ngakoue had 4 sacks in 5 games for the Vikings. He's 5th in the NFL, so he's a guy who can play. And they've moved on from him. And they saved $6 million. It gets carried over to next year under the salary cap if they don't spend it this year, which will come in handy. But, it feels like they're thinking about a rebuild. They were trying to do kind of a reload, rebuild, kind of change a tire on a moving car, and that's not working, obviously, for the Vikings. So they've got a lot to do to try to figure out who they're going to be, what they're going to be. And I think this is the first step toward acknowledging it and planning for the future, whatever the future may entail. But it may take a few years because they're going to have some guys that they're stuck with for a while, like Kirk Cousins, that they're not going to be able to move on from easily after the season.
If the Jets had the number 1 pick and you were Trevor Lawrence's agent, what would you advise him to do?
Well, look, I'm a firm believer in a player making a power play whenever and wherever he can. I don't like the draft in that it prevents these kids from picking where they're going to start their career. Because, look, where you go, who's around you, who your coach is, that so much shapes how you're ultimately perceived as a quarterback. You need to land in a spot where you want to be, with people you want to work for, with players you want to play with. So I'm always going to say to the first overall pick in the draft, you've got a hell of a lot more leverage than you realize. If you don't want to go play for that team, say you're not going to do it. Don't worry if you get criticized. Don't worry if the fans are upset with you. Say you're not going to do it and make that power play. That doesn't happen nearly enough.
The Raiders game against the Buccaneers was going to be Sunday night. Now it's Sunday afternoon. Seattle's game against Arizona, Sunday afternoon, now Sunday night. Are the Raiders going to be able to – when are we going to find out if the Raiders are going to be able to play this game?
Well, they've got guys – and this is the reality of the revised COVID protocols where guys get sent home even if they don't have it. but they've been in close enough contact with a guy who has it that everyone's being careful and everyone's being safe. Well, you don't get guys ready for games that way, and you may not have guys able to play that way. So I think we'll find out at some point today. But the Raiders are still going to be at a disadvantage, and they deserve to be at a disadvantage. You know, the NFL huffed and puffed, but ultimately didn't blow the house down for the Tennessee Titans a couple of weeks ago. I think we're at the point now where teams need to be held accountable. Coaches need to be held accountable. Coaches control everything. How is John Gruden not better controlling his guys to keep this kind of stuff from happening? And we've seen it time and again with the Raiders. So maybe the best punishment is, sorry, Coach, you have to go play a game on Sunday, and you're not ready. Your players aren't ready. You're down 7 guys. Too bad. You should have done a better job of keeping everyone in compliance with the protocol. So hopefully we find out today. I'm kind of getting used to the Monday night, Tuesday night. It's kind of like they've discovered plutonium by accident with this, where this is kind of a good thing, and maybe we need to start thinking about these windows, 2 Monday night games and a Tuesday night game going forward. I want to see Tom Brady and John Gruden. I want to see that game. And I got a better chance, and most people have a better chance of seeing it if it's played in prime time. So maybe we get another Monday or Tuesday night game out of this.
And I keep reminding people about the NFC East. Yes, somebody has to win this division, but the team that wins that division gets to host a playoff game. And you might be shocked to find out or think they could actually win a home playoff game, with no crowd there for a home field advantage. But if you say to me the Eagles or Cowboys are going to be hosting the Saints in the opener of a playoff game or the Rams, it's not out of the realm of possibilities that team, no matter what its record is going to win that first playoff game with maybe a sub-500 record.
10 years ago, the Seahawks were 7-9. The Saints were 11-5. The defending NFL champions had to go to Seattle, and Seattle won. And people were like, well, that shows Seattle's a better team. It's like, are you kidding me? You play that game in New Orleans wins by 30. Home field advantage does matter, and I don't like this current structure of the NFL. I don't like 4 teams in a division because all you have to be is the best of 4 crappy teams, and we come up against this every year or every other year. Why don't they go back to 3 divisions per conference? And yeah, one division's going to have 6 teams. Oh, well, 5, 6, and 5. Dan, back in the 70s, it was 4, 5, and 4. They don't have to have the same number of teams. It doesn't have to be perfect symmetry. I don't like the idea that you just have a 1 in 4 chance of making the playoffs and hosting a game. And Peter King and I were talking about this earlier. The fact that it is a 1 in 4 chance means you're never going to get 24 owners to vote to change it because they all look at it and say, hey, any given year, all we have to be is the best of these 4 teams, and we win our division, and we host a playoff game.
Yeah.
And that's why it's never going to change, but it should. And hopefully there's going to be a year where it's 5-11, hosting 12-4, and there'll be an outcry, and the NFL will have to change it.
Have a good weekend, Mike.
All right, see you then.
That's Mike Florio, co-host Pro Football Talk, live on Peacock with Chris Sims.